So before we begin our workshop, I would like to acknowledge and pay respect to traditional owners of the land on which we meet. As we share our own knowledge, teaching, learning, and research practices, may we also pay respect to the knowledge embedded forever within the Aboriginal custodianship of country. So thank you everyone for coming to today's sessions on careers and pathways for applying linguists and beyond. I'm very lucky to have fantastic colleagues from Curtin University. They're busy, but they're very generous to take part, to offer their expertise and share their experiences. So we have Bich Nguyen, we have Carly Steele, Associate Professor Julian Chen, and Professor Rhonda Oliver. So maybe you can briefly introduce yourself and talk to yourself a little, tell us a little bit about yourself before we start, and then the floor is with you.
Okay, thanks so much, Ake. And I just wanted to say that I intentionally put that order on the screen of us all because we represent level B, level C, level D academics, and I guess that's part of our stories that we will share today. But I also wanted us to acknowledge country, and for Julian, Bich and I, we're currently on the lands of the Whadjuk Noongar people, and on the screen you will see the Centre of Aboriginal Studies that lies at Curtin University. So it's an incredibly beautiful building, as you can see. And I thought, Rhonda, you might just want to briefly acknowledge the country that you're on.
Sorry, and everyone, I'm currently sitting up in Derby, so on the lands of the Nyiknya people, and I pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging in these communities. There are actually other language groups nearby, but where I'm currently sitting, which is in the deputy's office at the school where I'm undertaking this research. That's what. So yes. So thank you very much. Up in Derby, which is. I'm just trying to think. It's a 2.5 hour flight to Broome and then a 2 hour drive from Broome to Derby. So if you can imagine heading north of Perth, that's up the top there.
Over 1,000 kilometres away from Perth.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so we're very lucky that Rhonda's been able to sneak off to the deputy's office and join us today. Okay, so what we might actually do, Ake, is since all of us talk about our career journeys, we might have our introductions then, if that's okay. But before we get started, we've got a Padlet set up for this session so that we can introduce ourselves. If you could please add why you decided to join this workshop. During the workshop, feel free to post any questions there or in the chat, or feel free to interrupt us. We want to keep this really informal, personable. We're really talking about, I guess, our career journeys inside and outside of academia. We don't have all the answers. It's not, I guess, a sort of magic bullet discussion, but really it is a discussion, and so I guess it's very much about the audience as it is about us. So please join in the conversation and let us know if you've got any questions. So is everyone able to access that Padlet? Excellent.
Yes, it works for me.
Excellent.
I'm not going to answer, but it works for me.
Yeah. And then we'll return to the Padlet after we each introduce ourselves, when we also plan to have breakout sessions. Okay, so today the workshop structure. So we're going to share our career stories. And as I said, feel free to ask any questions as we're talking and throughout the whole workshop today. We're then going to talk about who you are and what questions you had. So I guess what is it in particular that you're interested in knowing or learning about today? And then we reflect on our careers, our lessons learned. And as I said, we don't have all the answers, so there's just as much we're still learning, and I think that's as much part of the journey. And then extending the conversation, so a few additional helpful resources that we've identified. Okay, and now I'll pass over to Julian. Thank you.
Thank you, Carly. Okay, I will go first. Hey, everyone, Julian here. I'm an associate professor of applied linguistics in TESOL at the School of Education, and I'm also the course coordinator of Asian languages program. So yeah, where should I start? I mean, so I'm originally from Taiwan, but I spent most of my life, living, studying, working in North America. And so I did my master's at the UBC, University of British Columbia in Canada, in Vancouver. Beautiful country, beautiful city, beautiful university. And I was very fortunate to have Passy Dub, Rhonda knows Passy Dub, and in our program. And we got a lot of very well-known scholars in our field, like Bonnie Norton, Bernie Mohan, and also I think Ryuko Kubota. They're still there. So I never thought I would become a researcher or kind of like researcher material whatsoever. I just want to, just get a master first. But I always enjoy teaching. I'm still am, enjoying teaching, and but I thought I'm gonna finish my master first and then see how it goes. So I did pretty well for my master's, but then I decided to go back to my teaching, kind of route. And then so I went to become a sessional lecturer at the universities, running from school to school every day. And I just feel like, oh my God, it's so exhausting, marking lesson preparation and also, traveling as well. So I thought, maybe this is not what I wanted, for the rest of my life. So, and then I decided to, what, go for PhD. So never say never. But yeah, and then I applied for a lot of university, right, in the States, and I all got in, but at that time, very few, and that was during the recession, kind of stress at that time. So not many universities will offer scholarship for the PhD. I managed to get a half scholarship, from University of Washington in Seattle. So I did my first year there, but the financial stress just made me feel like I had to find somewhere that could offer me the full scholarship. And I ended up at University of Maryland, very close to DC, Washington DC. So I just started, my second year there, and then I was also very fortunate because I was able to study under Michael Long, and late guru, scholar, father in TBLT, task based learning teaching, and also studied research methodology with Robert D. Kaiser, and then also some other people, Kathy Doughty, some other people there as well in the second language study program as well. So and then at that time I tried to take as many classes as possible because I wanted to explore my research specializations, and then I finally decided to find my home base around technology-enhanced language teaching, task-based language teaching. So I never thought I would actually become an avatar teacher, put on like avatar mode, teaching a 3D virtual world kind of environment, and then gathering the data at the same time. That was very nerve-wracking, but at the same time, it was exciting because I could see the potential and also the hope of, pursuing this kind of research line. And so after my PhD, long story short, after my PhD, I, as in the pipeline, right? After the PhD, you will get the, assistant professor position. Here we call it lecturer, on the UK system, including lecture. But so I was sending out a lot of applications, CVs, like most people would do. Yeah, I got some, opportunity to get into the interview kind of in a stage, because at least you got one foot in the door. But still, I just didn't know, which university would actually accept me, and I did got accepted into, got some offers from some university, but at the end, I just didn't feel like they are suitable. And then without actually looking, and I just got this, this position offer from, Stony Brook University on Long Island. It's in New York State. But the position is not an assistant professor position either. It's called Technical Director of a Language Learning Research Center. So you can see it's kind of different from, being a full, assistant professor, doing teaching and research and service. So this position is actually to support language learning and teaching for the whole university, and also to work with all the, academics, and to actually enhance their teaching, and also to promote language education for the university. So at that time, if you look at the photo here, this is all my, my tribe. And so because I just got a PhD, right, as an ECR. So they kind of tap into my strengths. So we started to write a lot of grant applications, and we all got it. On national grant, a local grant, and so we all got it. I still feel like, like a grant writing machine. Just but it was fun because you can work with this, a lot of talents there. And then, at the end of the day, you want to promote language education, especially less commonly taught languages, in the United States. So we offer a lot of summer schools, also, doing some research as well. So it was a really, really reassuring and really, really, rewarding to have experience as a technical director, but, writing grants and doing research at the same time. And then, but that was a fixed contract, right? So it's not permanent position. So every year they had to renew it. Of course, they want to renew my contract every year. But I just found my life on Long Island was so boring because I didn't drive, and I don't drive either. And I thought, oh, I can't just get stuck, this island. I need to get out. And so the second year, I moved to the city, New York City. Oh, that was definitely, more colorful and more entertaining. But then the commute just killing me because it's 1.5 hour back and forth, 3 hours, kind of like commute by train. I thought, oh no. So, and I started to just like, okay, maybe it's about time to look around again. So, and then back to the square one, and back to the pipeline. So I thought, okay, so I didn't realize that, I didn't actually look at the Australia or New Zealand at that time, because I thought, I don't know, Australia very well. And then not to mention New Zealand, but then suddenly Curtin, had a position open. And then I saw Curtin, and I look at that, the location, and it was Perth. I was like, where's Perth? I realized where Perth was at that time. And that was such an interesting kind of I think it's meant to be. So, and guess what? Rhonda interviewed me, on a panel, and we had such a good chat, and I just feel it's so natural. It's just meant to be. You got a vibe there. You can know, oh, okay, that's pretty much, the home I want to be. I want to be, living probably for a bit longer time. But now I call Australia my home. I'm not a gypsy anymore, so I'm moving around. And yeah, so just telling you that it's my academic trajectory is not very breezy either. It's kind of bumpy as well, like back and forth. And I know my colleague going to tell their own story, so I don't want to occupy so much time. But just so you know, that two of my friends actually also didn't get into the so-called standard assistant professor or lecturer position either. So one of my friends who graduated from Michigan State University, a very very good, very well known SLS second language studies there, a program there. So she knew at that time she didn't want to work after hour, teaching, researching, emailing, doing an admin work. She just wanted to spend more time with her partner. So she decided to, and her specialization is in language testing assessment. So she decided to move to find a job at ETS, educational testing service in like a TOEFL, IELTS. So she had a great time there, and then she really found ETS as such a ideal kind of a warehouse home base for her, because she could finish work, go back home, and then just relax, right? Don't have to think about work anymore. So that's kind of like telling you that PhD graduate not just looking for academic kind of a job like assistant professor or lecturer position. You can also do some other kind of a trajectory alternative careers, such as like a scientist, right, or language testing specialist in this kind of organization. And finally, I want to share another case study. So another friend of mine who just recently graduated from Georgia State, and then they are they are a queer academic, a scholar. So they decided to work in like center, like international partnership kind of center. So basically, what they did was they will actually bring people together to work on different kind of projects, right, and to make a difference to the community, especially marginalized communities. And also try to do some kind of grand kind of projects with the different kind of cohorts around the world. So that's kind of job that they really enjoy doing, and but they could still do research. It doesn't mean that you can't do research. So yeah, just my story with a little bit my friends' cases to share with you. So I'm gonna off to Carly right now. Oh, sorry, I think Rhonda.
Okay. Oh, I need to make this very bigger so I can actually see what I'm saying. Sorry, I'll be one moment. There we go. Oh, it's me. Okay. My story sounds far less glamorous than Julian's, so I hope you're not going to be disappointed. I was in many ways, when we were discussing this, Carly, Julian, Bich and I was thinking, but my trajectory into academia is very traditional, until I started writing it down, and then I went, perhaps it's actually not so traditional. And I think I'm hoping some of the women who are in the audience listening might understand that there's other things in life as well as your career. And so you will see in my pathway, first baby, second baby, and anyway, I'll talk about that as I go along. So I was actually a teacher, and what used to be called an ESL teacher in Australia, or EALD teacher as is now known. And I really loved that from almost the beginning. And I did try some mainstream teaching. I found it so boring, and the lack of autonomy around curriculum design, it just wasn't my thing. But ESL teaching, I taught newly arrived migrant children and refugees. And I did that. I was with the education department for 11 years. I became an advisory teacher during that time. And in order to have that role, they said I had to actually have a degree, because when I trained to be a teacher, it was a non-degree course. And so I had a dip teach. So I had to go and do my BEd. So I did that while I was a teacher. But when I sort of was coming towards the end, I enrolled in my master's degree. And so there was an overlap of my teaching while I was studying my master's part-time. And during that time, I was seconded not once but twice to the University of Western Australia to be a research assistant on, firstly, a state evaluation of ESL for the entire state. And then later I actually did a national review. So I was sort of like a research assistant, but also I had contacts in schools. So I was sort of like an education officer. I was able to do the research, but the contacts in schools. And I was still doing my master's at the same time. And just in the last sort of quarter of writing up my thesis, I was pregnant and my baby was delivered prematurely, which meant I had it planned. Those people who know me, I always have a timetable and what I'm going to do and when I'm going to do it. And my daughter had other ideas. So I didn't finish my master's before she was born, nearly there, but not quite, because she came 6 weeks early. So I then went back afterwards. My supervisor said, Rhonda, you've had a baby. I don't want to see you. I don't want to see you for at least, like 6 months to a year. Don't even think about it. Just concentrate on having your baby. And after about 2 months, I knocked on her door and said, please let me come and finish my study. Being at home full time is not for me. Especially with a premature baby, if any of you have had those, it's very different. They are very apathetic. They will sleep and there's not a lot of engagement. She didn't smile till she was 10 weeks old. So all the things you usually get highs from having a baby, I didn't have. So study was a way actually to keep sane. So then I was able to finish my master's. And then when she was a little bit older, not much older, I went back and became a teacher again, back at some of the schools I'd worked with before. And I worked part-time and was a child, the primary child carer for my daughter at that stage. My husband at this point started his master's, and so we were both studying and having children, and quite ridiculous, really. But anyway, younger and sillier, and I managed to do it. And that's when I was seconded out again to do the national evaluation, and that took a whole year. And while I was doing that, I thought, well, why not? And so I had a second baby, and fortunately, he wasn't as premature. He was only a month early, which was fortunate because he was a very large baby. So I then finished the evaluation. I literally finished writing up the report for that evaluation a week before I went in to have him. So by the end, I couldn't actually sit comfortably. So I was doing the editing laying down in the offices at UWA. And so then I enrolled in my PhD, but I had just been appointed as a project officer for the National Language and Literacy Institute, which is run by Joe Lobianco. And so we had a West Australian node, and I was working with that. So I started that, then enrolled in my PhD. And some people may have heard me talk about being the most fortunate applied linguist in Australia, because just shortly after I'd completed my proposal, Mike Long was appointed to UWA, and I was doing something in interaction and second language acquisition. I was supervised by him for 6 months before he returned to Hawaii, before then going to Maryland, where Julian met him. And, I was really fortunate. He continued throughout my PhD journey, and my children grew at this time. And I was doing bits of PhD work. I became a facilitator there was a lot of federal funding at this time. This is when education was well-resourced financially in terms of educational research. And I was facilitating the PD projects whilst being a sessional academic. So I was doing being a mum, being a sessional academic, and I know Bic would know this story because she did a bit of the same, and I was also working as this, project officer, facilitator. Finally, I completed my PhD, and I was really fortunate. A job came up as I completed, and it was at the university where I'd been a sessional academic. And I guess my story for many of you there, unlike Julian, who was applying cold to places who didn't know him, by having done these different projects and working with staff who were then working at the universities I was applying to, I was a known, and I had collaborated with people from these universities. And it was by, sometimes I'm looking at this now going, I don't know what I was thinking, juggling so many different roles at the one time. But it was really fortunate because it was a way to open the doors to get known in my community. I think, unlike everybody else that's talking today, I was born in Perth. My mother was born in Perth. My father was born in WA. I've lived in Perth. I've worked in Perth my whole career. And my children are born in Perth. Our son lives in Kalgoorlie, but you get the message. Perth is my home. When people I meet, such as Mike Long, he was like, well, you can go elsewhere. I was like, well, if you lived in Perth, you'd understand why I've never left. And so I was really fortunate to become an academic, firstly at ECU, where I'd done sessional work. And then later on, I actually went to Bunbury ECU for a time. In those days, you couldn't be appointed to full professor in your own institution. So although it was the same institution, it was a completely different faculty and campus. So it's a tip for some other parents at the moment. I moved out of home when my children were mid and late teenagers. It's a really good tip. I never had any problem with teenagers because I wasn't living there during the week. I'd be home just for 3 or 4 nights a week. The rest of the time, my husband had to deal with the teenage years. And then after that, I applied to become an academic at Curtin. And in order to do that, I actually had to take a demotion. So I'd been a full professor, but I applied at at the associate professor level. And some people saw that as a downward step. And why would you do that? But in fact, it led me to a much better place and into an institution that really valued research. And I have always been really well supported in my research at Curtin. So sometimes one step backwards to go 2 steps forwards. Some of you may have heard of John Hattie in the educational space, and he was my referee for both promotions to full professor. And he said, "You're the only person I know that has been promoted to professor twice." But it makes a good story. So it seems like in some ways a very straightforward journey, similar from Julian's, but you'll see I was picking up other stuff along the way. So that's me.
So much, Rhonda. There we go. So Rhonda just said that her journey did not involve moving, whereas mine is the exact opposite. Unlike Julian, I stayed in the country. I always stayed in Australia, but there's not many places that I haven't been or lived. And this is the last 20 years of my life. This is my professional life. My growing up looked very similar as well. So I guess when I reflect on my journey, what I didn't think were my strengths ended up being my strengths. So before academia, I was a teacher. I did my teacher education at UQ in Brisbane and went to rural Queensland. And then I went to Sydney for some 3 years. And then I went out to Punmu, which is in the Pilbara, where I was a teacher for 4 years. And that experience led me to study my Masters of Applied Linguistics. And at that stage, Curtin was one of the few institutions, I should say, offering online learning. So I did my Masters at Curtin, and Rhonda actually supervised my research project as part of that. Zena, do you have a question?
Yes. Hi, Rhonda.
Are you to Carly or to me?
To Rhonda, sorry, I should have said it earlier. I was dozing off. I just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing your personal perspective. We don't often hear from mothers in academia, and I am one of those mothers in academia. And when I first started, I've already finished my PhD. It was very challenging. And there are times where you question whether you've done the right thing by being a mother and entering academia. It was a bit of a struggle for me during my PhD, which lasted about 4.5, 5 years. And there are times where you doubt yourself, because I've got 5 children. Yeah, so it's good to hear perspective of mothers, and I find it really inspirational when academics and mothers come out there and encourage other women to be seen. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any other questions or comments that they would like to add while we...
I was going to say, and Carly did similarly.
And so did Vic. So
thank you so much.
Here.
Thank you guys for sharing this. It's honestly inspirational. It's encouraging, and it gives you that push forward to be inspired by other women out there, and it's great.
Yeah, it's not easy, is it? But it is possible. Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. And yeah, so I did, and then after that, I moved to Cairns, where I continued working as a teacher for some years. And then I decided to undertake my PhD. And I think when I went into it, I thought I wanted to do it and remain in the education system, but maybe as someone who might be in a higher position or might be able to enact change. However, I mean, that's not obviously what ended up happening. So I went down to Melbourne to begin my PhD. After too long, I found myself in Alice Springs on a research project, and then back to Cairns to join my partner, where we then had our first child. I think I was just after milestone 1 in my PhD at that stage. And yeah, I think so I had my child, and then I was doing a lot of casual teaching, so some relief teaching. I did PISA testing all over the region for some time, so these sorts of jobs. And then I became pregnant with my daughter, my second child. And at that stage, a job came up at JCU, James Cook University, and I was pregnant at the time, and so I wasn't going to get parental leave, and also I had to move to Townsville if I was going to take that job. So it was a real question of whether to take a job before I'd finished my PhD with one child and pregnant with the other, and not able to have parental leave and having to relocate to Townsville. But we did that. So my partner, I guess, never talk to him or hear what he has to say about all the things we've done. But yeah, we moved down there, and that was, I think, a particularly challenging time, because then I had my child, who was also, in NICU when she was born. She was also born during COVID, and then universities, basically shut down. Everything went online, and also in that year I finished my thesis, and then a job came up at Curtin. So I think one point I did want to make is the job that I got at JCU, so it was because of my teacher qualification. So even though I did my Master of Applied Linguistics and then PhD in Applied Linguistics, it's always teaching jobs in academia that I've found and that I've taken, and that's the reason I've been employed. And I guess that was my point about my teaching journey. I taught in rural, remote, regional sort of places all over Australia, and I always thought maybe that would be looked down upon in universities or in academia, and it ended up being, I guess, a real strength for me, that I had these different experiences that other people might not necessarily have, and I guess my view is that was part of the reason that I was successful in getting these jobs. And I guess part of the reason that I took that job at James Cook, even though I guess it was a terrible, terrible time in my life to be doing that, is because of that precarity and scarcity of academic jobs. So, do I take one now that's at an absolutely terrible time just to have one, or do I wait for a job that might never come? And so that's why I did take that job. And then I guess it has been a stepping stone that, from there I was able to secure a job at Curtin University. So, again, shortly after we all packed up, also during COVID shutdowns, and moved all the way across the country. But yeah, since then, I've been in here now, I can say almost 5 years. So I think that's almost the longest I've been in one place for a long time. And again, I was employed at Curtin because of my teaching qualifications and backgrounds. So those are the areas that I've been teaching into, but then still continuing my research in applied linguistics. Okay. Are there any questions or anything before we turn to Bich? Okay.
Hey, everybody. So have you got any questions for Carly, Rhonda, and Julian? Because we've listened to 3 presentations already. And if we add on without having a little break, it's going to be a little bit tedious. Like, I just continue on. Would you like to share anything about yourself? So I can see that Andrew is from, you did your PhD at University of Canberra. And, I did my master's degree at University of Canberra, and just going through the Padlet at the moment. The majority of you done or are doing your degrees at USET or UNSW, which is fantastic. So I'm the youngest or the newest of the team, as I haven't had a very smooth academic career because I identify myself as a teacher, and that's what I've been doing for more than 20 years of my life. As you can see in this visual representation, I started as a high school teacher, teaching at a gifted high school in Ho Chi Minh City. But it was actually really tough because I was not really prepared to have 50 teenager students in one class. So that is the reality in a lot of public schools in Vietnam. So we got the class sizes being from 40 students to 50 students in one class. And being 22, I was not prepared to deal with classroom management with 40 to 50 students in one class. So I didn't last too long. And in fact, I left that teaching job just after the first year because I didn't feel like it was for me. I lost my voice after just teaching for a few months. I bought a microphone and that didn't really help. And students didn't really pay attention to my teaching, and that was really stressful. So I decided to go on to do my master's degree with University of Canberra. So, similar to Andrew, who graduated from the University of Canberra. But that was not really in Canberra itself. So the University of Canberra had a conjunction program to offer degrees to universities in Vietnam, which is similar to what Curtin is doing at the moment, offering degrees to Vietnamese students in a semio-retract conjunction program. So we do travel to Vietnam once or twice a year to deliver such a program. So I did my master's degree through a partnership program with a university in Australia. Then I applied to teach at the University of Education, where I graduated from. And I thought that was the end of my academic journey. I got married, had my first baby, and was extremely content with my life. I thought, what else would I want? But secretly inside me, I always wanted to travel outside of Vietnam, just maybe for 6 months for a short trip, just to see the world. And I'm passionate about English. I wanted to be immersed in an environment where I could use English full time. I could interact with people who speak English instead of speaking in Vietnamese the whole time. So that was my passion, to be outside of Vietnam for maybe an exchange trip. So I started looking around, even though I was really happy with my life, and started looking for opportunities. And I just came across a job, like a scholarship ad, to come to Australia to study a PhD on a full scholarship. I thought it was really a really ambitious thing to do, because scholarships are not easy to apply for. So I just gave it a go, and somehow I got a full scholarship of 160,000 AUD to study my PhD at Curtin. So came to Perth and did my PhD here, even though I thought my academic career would end and finish in, the University of Education in Ho Chi Minh City. So I came to Perth, and that was actually a really big, massive change to my life, as I think a lot of you here appreciate. Because when we leave everything behind to start afresh in a new country, it's a lot harder than we anticipated initially. So my husband had to give up his well-paid manager job at an American company to come to Perth with me to start afresh. And even though I was on a full scholarship, a lot of my scholarship money was allocated to the tuition, which was quite hefty. So the living allowances were not really a lot to support a family of 3. So we had to live in a share house situation with 7 people, crammed into a 2-bedroom accommodating apartment for 4 years. And that was actually a really embarrassing but a memorable experience. And my daughter grew up in that share house, and she went to pre-primary and kinder, and primary teachers would ask, how many people do you have in your house? And she would say, 7 people. And pre-primary teachers were really surprised that she lived in such a unconventional condition. But it was really, really sweet, because, by the way, she is in Sydney at the moment. She's a student at University of Sydney as well. So she's very excited when I said that I'm doing this talk today with people from Sydney. And yeah, I didn't know that we would have some listeners from Canberra as well. But it is really sweet. So we struggled for a few years, and then I told my supervisors, my PhD supervisors, that I really wanted to have a job. And they were like, but you're on a scholarship and you really need to focus on your PhD study. Don't work, because that will distract you a lot from presenting the highest quality of your thesis. But I thought working is not just about money. Working is also about my identity. So then my supervisor at that time, Katie Dunworth, recommended me to Rhonda. So and I was so lucky to work as a research assistant for Rhonda. And I remember the first project was on form focus instruction. And I got a small amount of money, which I used to buy a little toy set for my 3-year-old baby. So it was a sweet, sweet memory. And that small job actually was the stepping stone for a lot more important steps in my life down the track that I wouldn't be able to envisage at that point, The first project, I remember I was paid about $350, and Rhonda was very apologetic, and I'm like, no, but I really appreciated this opportunity to be a research assistant. And, just about 1.5 years later, Katie moved to the UK, and Rhonda became my PhD supervisor. And then I started working on many projects for Rhonda, and I started publishing with Rhonda as well. So now I look at my list of 13 publications, which is amazing because I've just become an ongoing academic at Curtin for about a year and a half. And I've already got like 13 publications with high quality journals, and all thanks to Rhonda and her support. It's just amazing how small things can flourish into more important steps down the track. So back to the time when I finished my PhD as an international student, I was expected to leave Australia and to go back to Vietnam to continue my job at my university. But my daughter was about 6 years old at that time, and she was doing so well in her primary school that I thought it would be a shame to go back to Vietnam to start from scratch when she couldn't read and write very fluently in Vietnamese. So we tried our best to stay. The typical story. So I just tried to stay, but yet I couldn't. With all of the support from Rhonda and from Curtin, yet the policy of immigration at that time was really, really strict, and I couldn't continue working at Curtin because I had to move on to find a different pathway. So I did a grad dip in secondary education to become a secondary teacher, and I'm like, but I left secondary teaching when I was 22. Will I be able to teach high school students again? Will I give up because of students' misbehaviors again? And you know that Australian school students are not easy to manage, not at all. So I did that degree. And interestingly, for the next 10 years, I became a school teacher, teaching English and EALD at a Perth school. And at this time, it was an amazing experience. Whereas before, I couldn't handle my Vietnamese students when I graduated from university at the age of 22. This time around, I enjoy teaching school students tremendously. And I feel like being a mother, I was able to connect with little children more effectively. Like I was able to build relationships. So instead of controlling the behaviors this time around, I used relationship building in order to win the students over. And so 10 years teaching in a high school in Perth was the most beautiful, memorable experience in my life. And I've never looked back. I know that I'm a lot behind compared to my colleagues, compared to Carly, compared to Julian. I can't compare myself to Rhonda because she's way ahead of me. But I feel like I'm a lot behind my colleagues in terms of research. However, I've never looked back because my 10 years working as a school teacher in Australia was the most beautiful experience I've ever had in my career. And I was promoted to level 3 classroom teacher after 3 or 4 years teaching in high school. So level 3, for those of you who don't know, is the highest level of recognition that the Department of Education in WA awards a secondary school teacher. And it was a really rigorous and difficult process. And the process of applying for level 3 was even more demanding than my PhD journey. Was really, really difficult to get level 3. And I got that. So in terms of the school system, I got to the highest level of acknowledgement. And I thought that was the end of it. I thought I was happy. I wouldn't change my career or job anymore. But like I did a little bit of work at Curtin as an academic, sessional academic. And there was an opportunity in 2024 to become ongoing staff at Curtin, to become a lecturer at Curtin. And it was a really difficult time for me because I had already reached the highest level of acknowledgement in the school system. I was extremely happy with my school students. Should I give up that job to become an academic? And in terms of pay, in terms of, practical terms of the job, it would be a step backward. Like what Rhonda said, sometimes we have to take certain steps backwards. So it took me more than a few months to decide whether to go for that role. And even after I was successful with my interview, I was still unsure whether I would accept the job at Curtin. That was how hard it was for me to decide whether to become an academic or not. Yeah, so it is so tough. Oh yes. So it's so basically that is my journey. It's been really, really hard. And hopefully one step backwards will help me move one step or two steps forwards in the future. So thank you for listening. And if you've got any questions, I'm happy to address them. Otherwise, we'll move on.
I don't have a question, but I'm very impressed with all of you telling us all amazing stories. I'm really pleased that I invited you because my story is going to be very boring. Like my story is very straightforward. Study, and the current job.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's amazing.
And I don't know if you've read in the chat. Some of you don't watch Bluey. Some of you do. And I'm glad that is it Phoebe that you appreciate the reference. So if you haven't watched Bluey, some of you who are international students and others should watch Bluey. It's a cartoon for children, but it's actually it's a lesson for adults, and you don't have to be a parent to appreciate it. But my point was that child development's not a race, and our journeys into academe is not a race either. It's about your own journey.
Oh, thank you so much, Rhonda, for your encouragement, because I do feel that I'm very much behind everybody else, and it will take me some time to catch up. But I mean, I'm always happy with where I am, and I'm content with what I'm doing at the moment. So I think that is quite important for me to move forward.
Great.
Thought I might stop the share now because we'd planned to have a chat and respond to the Padlet and any questions that people might have. My reflection listening to everyone is I realised that Rhonda was integral to all our stories. Rhonda also hired me at Curtin along with Julian, and then obviously Vic and I have worked very much with Rhonda. And I don't think there are many senior academics here today, probably yourself and Ake, Rhonda, but I think it just shows what a difference you can make to the career trajectories and personal experiences of junior academics.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to thank Rhonda for all of your encouragement, because when I became a school teacher, Rhonda said, I'll just teach for a few years and then come back to Curtin. I thought that would be impossible. I thought it would be difficult to come back to Curtin to work as a lecturer. And in fact, it just happened like 10 years down the track. I can't believe that it actually happened. So thank you so much, Rhonda, for all of your support and encouragement.
It's been my pleasure, and I was really fortunate. I was mentored by some really wonderful people, and you just don't know what's going to happen in life, and the most unexpected. And I always say, take opportunities when they come along, because it's been quite incredible for me. Things that just seem coincidental and nothing much. You can't see, and I won't embarrass her by showing, but I've actually got my research colleague sitting opposite me on the little desk in our deputy eavesdropping. And she was one of my master's students, and we needed somebody who was willing to come out remote and do a project with me. So Steph and I are sitting here, and it's just like, I taught her, I don't remember when, but quite a few years ago, when I was first at Curtin, and now Steph and I are sitting here having the most wonderful time up in remote, and hopefully making difference to some Aboriginal kids' lives And if it's only one, it's one person that has, whose life will be different. So look, take those opportunities. I think they're really important. And Bich, it's really interesting. I know I said that to you, go teach, because as Carly rightfully said, a lot of jobs in academia are around teaching, particularly in our field of applied linguistics. We're often teaching about language education. We're teaching teachers about language education. We're teaching teachers about TESOL or foreign language learning or whatever. And if you don't have that experience of teaching, particularly in Australia, it's really hard for universities to employ you because you don't have credibility with your students. So, so those of you who might have difficulty getting employed, Bich was able to do that by doing her DipEd, and it does give you credibility and it does give you an entree. And it's, I did teaching because it was the only way that in my family circumstances that I was allowed to go beyond year 10 because I was first in family to finish high school. So it was like, teaching was an opportunity. I really wanted to have a degree, but that couldn't happen. So, all our journeys are different. But man, I'm so glad I did do teaching, because teaching has led me to where I am. And, just yesterday, Steph and I were trying very hard to get lost out in the middle of nowhere. We didn't. We're still here. But I said to Steph, we're so lucky. This is just so amazing to have these opportunities in life. I still go, how did this happen to me? From my background, how did I manage to have this amazing life? But it was taking those chances and doing things, and sometimes stepping back to go forward, and saying yes to opportunities, and doing crazy things like having babies while you're studying and working. Carly, what were we thinking?
I mean, sometimes you don't even realize things are opportunities until hindsight.
Yeah.
You don't automatically recognize them as such. But I was also thinking, while you're saying it's taking opportunities, but I was reminded of what you always say, Rhonda, about drawbridges, and I guess the role of senior academics in making opportunities. So what is it you're saying about drawbridges?
Oh, sorry. Some wise woman said it to me early in my career, and she said, Rhonda, and I'm sorry for the men listening, but I'm sure it applies equally, and for those who are non-binary equally as well, that you can be a drawbridge down and bring people with you, or you can pull the drawbridge up and be the only person sort of in there on their own or with this elite little group. And if you look at some of the real greats in our field that, I've had the fortune to interact with and to know, because we're older, so we've got to know each other. But you look at the greats. So Mike Long was not an easy personality to deal with, but man, if he respected what you were doing, he would do everything in his power to support you. And people like Patsy Duff has been the American president in the past. She makes time for everybody, regardless of who they are in the field, and supports them in different ways. I mean, that's equally true. Some of you would have seen the name Lourdes Ortega, and I mean, I met her and I was a PhD student, and she was a master's student. And so, but never compare yourself to others. There's that famous poem. If you do, you will feel yourself vain or bitter. And I'm just really proud that I know these people and they let me hang out with them sometimes, because, but it is around, we all have values and attributes we can share. And and I've learned from the generosity of spirit of other people, and it's nice to it's like giving your kids birthday presents. You get as much joy out of the gift giving than you get yourself receiving a gift. So when you all get your careers and go forward, always remember, put your hand out and take other people with you, because it's really gratifying.
But I think it's also about enculturation, right? If that's the culture we experience as junior academics, then we're going to reciprocate and, do that in the future, because that's the way we've been enculturated.
I was a beneficiary of a benefactor who was just so supportive of a number of them. My first job, full-time academic job, was a guy called Mike Brain, an amazing academic who never gets the accolades he should, but his process approach to language teaching is in my mind still revolutionary, and some of the work that I'm doing with all my master's students at an Aboriginal boarding school is around what Mike taught me about negotiating curriculum and giving agency to learners. And he shared that with me, even though we came from very different theoretical backgrounds. So, you probably think, oh, I don't have much to offer. And I sometimes, as we all do, suffer from imposter syndrome. But, the little bits that you can do to help others are so worthwhile.
Thanks, Rhonda. Should we go to breakout rooms now? I saw there was a couple of questions. So there's one question.
Carly, I'm sorry to disrupt. It's me. Shall we have a 5 minutes break before we do the breakout? So people might have a chance to quick break.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, we thought we'd just put everyone into breakout groups for 10 minutes or so, just to have a chat with each other and some of the things that you might be thinking about, reflecting upon, and any questions that you may have. I've noted a couple of questions on the chat, so we can return to those questions and any that might arise from the breakout groups afterwards. So could you just help me?
Would you like me to do it?
I would love you to do it, Ake. Yes.
Okay, I would do that.
Thank you.
Including all presenters or excluding presenters?
Excluding presenters, I think. I don't know. Do you want us in the groups or not?
You can enter any group. Maybe it would be good that you spread around and listen to other people, and then
okay. Like
that? How long would that be?
10 minutes, please.
Okay, so I can time and monitor. Okay, so yes, done. Oh, I might have to put myself in as well, because include
I think it's easier, isn't it, if we just
yeah, okay. There you go. Haha, I managed to get everyone back out here. It's so fun. It's so fun.
We need more time because I just finished in the middle of a conversation.
It was fun.
It was great. Yeah,
it was.
We talked about really important things like bags and shoes and scarves. Sorry, Ake.
Hey, Priyanka, good to see you here.
Okay, shall we move on?
Now, shall we go to some of the questions that were posted in the Padlet?
Can I suggest, though, that people share what they talk in the Zoom or something, and then you can do by fresh, right? And people might have something they want to share in a broader context, and then we can then look into the questions and so on. Sounds good?
Okay. Which room should we start? How many rooms were there?
We have 5 rooms.
Okay.
Shall I call out or something?
Yeah, if we go 1 through 5. Yeah.
Okay. So based on what I see, let's go to room number 1. We have Celia, Ira, and Rhonda.
Oh, so I said we had really deep conversations about shoes, hats. But we also talked about whether translating and interpreting was a part of applied linguistics. So I was telling Ira that it most definitely did. Celia works for AMEP, so it was nice to say how she's doing her masters, and that it was really good to undertake a master's, that it can open up those opportunities. So, you don't have to just have one pathway. Your journey will take you where it does, but by doing further study, it does open up possibilities.
Priya, you raised your hand. You might have some questions for Rhonda or something.
Yes. anyone can answer. Like, I just have a question. Like, I had an interview because I'm right now finished my PhD last December and applying for jobs. So in the job interview, I had a question for which I was not been successful. Maybe one of the question was like, how in regard to project management, how you like how you manage the project. But I didn't work as a research associate or something like that in my PhD. So for a PhD graduate who have just finished, what will they answer? I just answered in my how I did my PhD, how I managed like ethics and all, application and all in a timely process and everything. But that was not much, maybe because that the feedback I got, like that answer was not sufficient enough. So
yeah,
what kind of
and Priya, that's really talking to the point around those other opportunities, like working as Bich was talking about, working as a research assistant, some of the work that Julian did on his journey to be an academic. And it really is what I was saying, you know, take opportunities. And if you can do other roles in addition to your PhD or other roles after your PhD, because, and somebody, sorry, Carly, I'm jumping ahead, but somebody asked a question about leadership as well. And it's really hard when you're a junior academic or wanting to be an academic to say, oh, I've got all this leadership experience. Some people who've worked in schools can say, I was a deputy or I was a level 3 teacher or I had curriculum leadership roles or whatever, and you can talk about that. And Priya, for you, if you've had any of that teaching experience where you were managing and organising designated projects, you can talk about that. So that it's really important to have a wide range of experience in the way that Carly was saying that, you know, she did this. So when I know because I was on the interview panel. In fact, I chaired her interview panel and Julian's, and it was being able to give that wide range of experience. And unlike the sciences where people go to school, do a degree, do their honours, do their PhD, and then become academics in science or engineering, within the humanities and social sciences and education, applied linguistics, having a range of experiences sets you up for interview questions like that.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So even like for the teaching experience, as you said, even like for I can apply for the university teaching or like the school or college teaching.
Look, and then often, unless you've done as Bich did, and I did myself, you know, sessional lecturing. So
yeah, I did.
Yeah, so talking about that online teaching. So people, that's some of your teaching experience.
Okay.
And, you know, I still have a vivid memory of applying for the chair of education when I went down to Bunbury, and I said, you know, I've been operating on Blackboard for a number of years. I'm happy with online platforms, and that sticks with me because everybody sitting around the table interviewing me raised their pen and wrote it down. And I went, well, I've either got that right or got that very wrong, but they all noted it, and it was having. And I mean, this is a long time ago too. So platforms and everything and online teaching has changed. But I had an experience whereas a lot of other people weren't doing that. So in interviews, you've got to have an edge, and it's got to be something they really want.
Great. Thank you so much, Rhonda. Yeah, really appreciate it.
Okay, Carly.
Do we go to group 2?
I think that was us. I'm not 100% sure, but if no one else is jumping in, then it probably is. We talked about each of our journeys, and that was just a really nice chance to hear some different stories of different people and build some connections. And yeah, that was we spent that time going around and each of us talking. It was good.
Excellent. Do you have any questions from that?
Someone else jump in if I'm wrong, but I don't think so. We sort of had some general questions about what might be next for us, but not kind of specific questions.
Excellent. Thank you. Shall we hear from group 3?
Yeah. So group 3, Julian, Michael, Sushi, and Victoria.
Victoria, would you like to speak on behalf of us? Because I think that it's good to have PhD student to to share what they felt about, our conversation and probably some story they had, and also some questions. Yeah, Victoria, if you like to take the floor.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Julian. We each shared our pathways and what we're doing now and what our goals are, what we're looking for, what our questions are. And Julian was giving us some absolutely fantastic comments and feedback and answers, and we had to come back. And I'd love to hear more about what you were saying, Julian. You were telling us about places to look and to look out for opportunities, and that was really fantastic. If you've got any more to add.
Thank you, Victoria. Yeah, I had such a fabulous conversation with Victoria, Suchi, and Michael. Especially in Michael's case, also like similar to Priyanka, he just graduated this year and is still doing, going through this kind of a timeline, getting interviews, and looking for a job as well. So he's doing some concessional work. And Victoria asked about where can we find jobs? Where can we find any opportunities, right? So I was sharing my experience because I was based in the States at that time, and I didn't mind looking for like jobs elsewhere in the world, everywhere. I told Victoria and everyone there that I was desperate to find just looking for a job. I didn't care. So anything goes. So the website, the listserv I was sharing was called, I don't probably some of you know about this, called Linguist List. So Linguist List is a listserv that actually advertise a lot of job opportunities, also training opportunities, So, but you had to register, you had to sign up for that. I think you had to subscribe to that. And then you can find a job not just in USA, but Canada, even in Japan, Korea, everywhere, even Australia sometimes. And also sometimes I just target particular university that I really, really want to work at, for example, Curtin or somewhere else in Monash, Melbourne. And usually you can go to the job, careers, a kind of website. They usually have, job opportunities there as well. So it's more specific kind of a targeting. But also there's another one, is the Michigan State University kind of listserv. They usually have a newsletter. I think Peter DeCosta is editing that newsletter. So every week they will actually update some job opportunities, conferences, the newly published books, that kind of opportunities. And also at the end of that newsletter, the session will be like, job. So you can see different kind of, job opportunities there as well. So this from Michigan State, SOS newsletter or listserv there. So basically, academia, especially in your field, it's quite small. And also I was like discussing with folks there that unfortunately we got so many PhD graduates competing for limited kind of positions there. So if you only focus on Australia here, sometimes, yes, you do find some job opportunities, but you also get a lot of competitors, like candidates competing for the same job. So that's why I just opened my door to different kind of regions around the world, and that's why I ended up here in Australia down under. So, yeah, just sharing some of my resources that I used to do. Hopefully, I don't have to do look for a job again. Say.
That's wonderful, Julian. And to add on to that, I think the AAAL. They also, if you're a member of the American Association for Applied Linguistics, they have a list of jobs. They update it all the time, so you can log in. I'm not suggesting that you should apply for another association, which costs you, but it's worth it. I'm wondering if it's a publicly accessible. I'm not so sure. But for the ALAA, we don't really have that sort of session. So anytime we know news, we will just have to pass on the news through emails. And so on. I think it's always good to have a bit of network around that, I guess. Yeah. Shall we move on to the next group?
Oh, by the way, can I add to that? Because you mentioned AAAL. By the way, AAAL is the go-to conference in the States. I used to go when I was a PhD student and also graduated from Maryland. But you had to be the member similar to here, ALAA. You had to be the member in order to access all the career opportunities there as well, and also TESOL association as well. TESOL also got a job, bank, but you had to be the member. So see, you had to subscribe to their, membership, in order to get into the resources.
Unless you have a secret admirer to forward and let you know.
Yeah, also networking as well. But also as a student, you have a discounted kind of rate. Instead of paying a full membership, you can get a cheaper rate. I think it's worth it. At least, you want to find a job and you want to know where, right? At least I have some investment and you'll get a better return in the future.
I agree. And I like the draw bridges concept, because sometimes when I see something like that, I will forward to my email list and so to people so they know. So I think that's good. Is that good concept, Rhonda? Just bring people along with you, right? So a lot of the time your professor might see some jobs out there, they will forward something to you or you apply, and that's how it works as well. So yeah, sometimes it's something that people will look out for you as well, I guess. Yeah, that's great, Julian.
Just a quick question. If I just do with to Julian, as Julian mentioned, thanks Julian for all the job info. Like as you mentioned, newsletter from Peter DeCosta. Can you please repeat what?
So if you go to Michigan State University, MSU, as I mentioned earlier, also in my talk, they got the strongest, or probably one of the strongest, best, applied linguistics. They call it second language acquisition, SLS, second language studies, or SLA, second language acquisition program. But I think they call it SLS, second language study program. And they have a listserv there. So they have a newsletter, you can subscribe to it. And then every week they send you the updates, on the conferences, and also the jobs, also the books, also some trainings. So I find it quite useful. But also, again, similar to Linguist List, it's not just limited to USA kind of jobs. It's to everywhere. Yeah. Okay. I hope that helps.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So big group, Ivana, Linda, Madhu.
Yes. So our group, we also talked about jobs and job security, because Linda and Ivana are both sessional academics at their university. And we talked about how insecure being a sessional academic is, because you don't really know whether you will be given classes for the new study period, new semester. Like, how do we make the job more secure? And I must admit that in the field of applied linguistics, number of students enrolled in the units tends to be quite low compared to other degrees. So the competition is quite tough. Madhu, on the other hand, is in Hong Kong at the moment. But she talked about the postdoc and also her resilience in fighting some health battles. And she has succeeded. So we congratulated Madhu on that very important milestone, because jobs are important, but our health is even a lot more important to whatever we do. So we just appreciate being healthy, and looking for a job could happen down the track. And, in terms of job seeking, I'm always curious, because Julian has a lot of experience moving across different countries. Julian, if you don't mind, can I ask, what do you advise people to put on their CV when they move across different countries to make their CV competitive and stand out? Because I have always been curious. I graduated from Curtin, but I felt like I was not competitive enough to apply for those advertised positions like yourself. So would you like to advise us on that point?
I think that will go back to Rhonda's, advice in terms of, don't be just one trick pony.
Okay.
People like, somebody who can do more than just one task, right? Your narrow kind of, area. You had to branch out, right? Do a lot of, just grab opportunity to work with people and also to try something different, try something that you never tried before, but you think you can do it. Like working in a research project team, so doing some, even the admin work, sessional teaching, they all build your capacity to do different things, teaching, research, admin, services as well. So grab every opportunity. And also, I think that everything happens for a reason. So I think that everything that you're looking at right now is that, oh my God, am I doing the right thing? Is it too small? It's not important? You never know. It's not how you start, it's how you finish it, So I think that it's very important to just, believe in yourself, but don't just be patient, because I think that again, it's a brutal kind of business to look for a job, especially just because it's so limited, and it's just so many supplies, So that's why you had to stand out, like you said, Big. That's why my CV got different kind of a global kind of flavor to it, because I have done this, done that, and also not just limit myself to one country per se, but in terms of the like standard kind of a pathway for some of our students here, I think I really think that it's a way to go. Like you, Big, you doing some teaching as well in school. I think that nowadays a lot of employees, especially in our field, really love people who have this kind of experience on the ground. They know that what's what to expect as a language teacher, as a teacher, in school. So I think that kind of a practical experience will also help you as well. So yeah, so I think that just sorry, my phone is actually doing some note taking here suddenly. So I hope that actually addresses the question.
Yes, it's great. And do you think that attending conferences is important for your CV to highlight your diverse experience?
Yes, you have to. You can't just do, I'm finishing my thesis writing, I publish I submitted my thesis. No, you have. So at the end of our slide, we will talk about some. Carly.
Yeah, and sorry, can I jump in, Julian? It's not just presenting, which is very important. In fact, I often think if you have to present your work, it helps writing your work later, and it clarifies what it is you're trying to say. In fact, there was a book by Dr Bich Nguyen about how to write an applied linguistics thesis. And he used to get all his students to do a PowerPoint before they wrote their chapters, because if you had a presentation prepared, then you'd got the key points in your head. You'd also got the linear structure of English academic writing. But the other thing is meeting people. So, if you go through my CV, yes, you'll see Bich and Carly and others that I've worked with, but also some other people who are in the US. Now, why would a person from Perth be collaborating with these people? Because I met them at conferences, and it's interacting and socializing and becoming friends, and you do start, there's some people I haven't written with that I'd love to write with, but there's so many opportunities I had just by meeting people at conferences or joining committees. In fact, the project Steph and I are doing at the moment was because somebody asked me to be on an editorial committee, and I was so impressed by the editor when I saw a funding opportunity. I contacted him and said, I saw this, would you be interested in collaborating? So I already had a relationship, and I'm still grateful he said yes, because it's led on to 2 massive projects that we've successfully applied for and undertaking the second one now. So yes, go to conferences, not just for your CV, but it's who you know.
Excellent. Can I add one thing in terms of conferences? I've got very good advice from a very wise man, Brian Partridge, telling me you should attend conferences. it's not just to share your ideas or establish yourself, but your potential employers can be out there. They might attend your session and then they like you. And when there is a job there, they would email you. So things like that happens all the time. So it could be like Rhonda sitting right there in the room and listening to you, and she really liked your project. And when something comes up, she would think of you. I think that's a very good strategy, and it works well for me as well, but not, I hope, also for others. Yeah, it's a wonderful place to do.
Yeah, along those lines, Ike, I'm happy that I went to the Netherlands to present my work and also see Rhonda there. She happened to be there. If you remember Rhonda 2 years ago, we had a good chat.
I bet I didn't say you had a nice pair of shoes.
Okay.
That's women's talk.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm sorry, I have a funny laugh. Okay, last group, which is Keith, Ling Ling, Nalali.
Dina, did you have a question? I just saw her hand up.
I was going to add something I learned from conferences is you need to be seen to be known.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I remember I was in a conference last year overseas, and I met pretty much all of the scholars that I have referenced in my thesis. It was a big shock to me. I'm like, oh my God, I can put a face to every author. And it was absolutely amazing.
You realize they're real people, don't you?
Yeah. And I got to see all of them, you know, and I got to introduce myself. And I honestly think you need to be seen to be known.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's actually very useful. You know, you need to be socialized, like you need to introduce yourself and, you know, get to know people in, you know, like it's not like you want anything from them, but I think connecting with them is really important. It's not this is about trying to, you know, look for famous people and try to be friends with them or something, but I think networking and participating with things will be quite nice. Even to attend like conference dinner or something, right? You know, we have a chance to talk to people. Yeah, I agree. Keith, Ling Ling, Lily.
Hi. Sorry. Guess, do you want to share, or Lily? Anyone want to share?
Or maybe you want to share anything more like your insight previously about the concern about the job market, is it the case?
Right. Yes, I think. So I'm just being a bit real here. I think starting from me, some of us, we kind of mentioned some concern about the job market at the moment, especially for some of us living in Sydney. It's such a competitive world. But also I feel like what Rhonda and some of you said, we all own our own journey. Like it's not about competition to others. It's really about figuring out your own path. And there's a point I really just questioned myself, should I do a PhD? Because I started off being a teacher myself, teaching languages in high school. But I always feel like exactly like what Rhonda said, at some point I feel it's at the end towards everything. Like I feel so bored. Not that I don't love teaching. The funny thing is I'm in that kind of a dilemma. I love teaching. I love my students. I love what I'm doing. But also there's a side of teaching, like all this admin and, you know, also the school culture, like really depends on what kind of school that you are in. Like sometimes you have really supportive school culture, but sometimes you don't. So I was lucky in an okay situation, but soon I realized there's actually not much growth for me there. And that's why I moved to the UK for my master and came back thinking still want to improve myself, but I'm not sure whether I should go full-time back in teaching anymore. But I'm still also kind of like questioning, is PhD a good way to go, considering the market now is so competitive? But it's a kind of a journey to, or like a realization journey, I guess I will kind of reflect more. But yeah, sorry. That's kind of a conversation that we're on about the real concern in the job market. But I think Julian shares so much really practical skills for us. Where to find, like who are your people, And I think really I'm really loving the session today, about the solidarity, about being supportive to each other. And I wish I can be stronger one day and just support everyone, in the group. And that's what we should do, I think.
Applied linguists are good people.
Yeah.
Mostly. There are a few exceptions, but mostly.
Mostly. I'm getting the vibe. Yeah. Sorry, anything you want to add, Lily?
I think that you already represent us, Ling Ling. Thank you so much. But maybe my concern is because actually I'm in Victoria. Maybe it's almost similar to New South Wales, where the job market is very competitive. So kind of things that I need to know more, or maybe need advice, like how can I make my CV more outstanding or like more visible to from others, instead of because in Victoria specifically for TESOL and applied linguistics, it's many option for PhD students from other university to compete to each other only for one position. So that's kind of thing like maybe I need advice from all of you, especially I just completed my PhD last month. So just like how can I make maybe my CV, or how can I make myself more visible in terms of like to compete with people, especially from similar field like TESOL or applied linguistics, kind of that. Yeah. But actually, I have heard from Julian and also Rhonda from their advice, so maybe I can take note of that. But thank you so much for today's session. I can learn a lot from your experience, and also Carly and Bing. That's very nice journey. Like I can relate from some of you that move from one country to another one and have scholarship from the university and then try something new. So that's very insightful. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Julian, I was wondering if this was a good segue to our book and wrapping up the session, because when you were talking, I'll just return to the slide if I can get it up again. Julian and I do have a book that's coming out, and lots of us have chapters in it, and it's a lot of that practical stuff. Like, so there's a chapter on CV writing. Rhonda wrote a chapter on grant writing. There's another chapter on ethics, so you're probably past that and never want to see that again. But yeah, there's lots of different chapters in it. So if I can I might, we'll send you the slides. We won't have time for this today, but those are our lessons learned and things we're working on. I might return to that if we have time. But Julian, did you want to give a brief overview of our book?
Oh, probably you can do the honor. So I think I talked too much. Go for it.
And Ake has done the afterword, wasn't it, Ake? So, and then Big's got a chapter in there along with some of our other colleagues on diverse career pathways and their different experiences. There's chapters on networking and how to network. That's from Tatiana and her colleagues. There's chapters on publishing, one from Coxing, who is a Q1 journal editor. There's also one from Julian on how to turn your thesis into a 5 articles and a book, which is what Julian did, a bit of an overachiever there. I wrote one with my colleague about motherhood, so all different aspects of not just the PhD, but I mean, I certainly had the feeling after my PhD, oh gosh, what do I do now? I've got no idea. So that's sort of what now and next steps of your career. If I have time quickly before I wrap up, I would like to also just point you in the direction of a couple of other things. This is an article that you might be interested in, PhD graduates' agency in navigating their career pathways. So it's stories from about 20 PhD students and the different career journeys they had, but also how they shaped their career journeys. So showing that they're quite agentic. And absolutely love this. So Sharon Parker at Curtin University, she's amazing. Since 2021, she's been doing these webinars, and it's called Small Wins. So it's like the little everyday things that you can do to shape your career and maybe feel more fulfilled. So episode 38 was navigating pivotal career decisions in academia. So I thought that one might be relevant to today's talk. But as you can see, she's got 38 webinars. I've been watching them regularly for the last 5 years, and I absolutely love them. I've learned so much about thinking about what's important to you and how to shape the career that, I guess allows you to live those values or what you're particularly interested in. So I think we're probably out of time. Is that right, Ake?
Yes, we are out of time. When you have such a good time, it's gone. Yeah, it's gone so quickly. May I add one last one? This set up really well for our next workshop. And the next workshop is on preparing CVs, teaching and research statements, and addressing job through cover letters. So next time it will be me, and we have Yuri from Western Australia, and we also have Anthony Watering to also run the session for us. So that probably can add something that you might be after next time. Yeah.
Thanks so much for having us, Ake, and everyone. It was an absolutely wonderful way to spend 2 hours and get to know some more people.
Look, I have to say, we have to thank you rather than you thanking us. So Carly, Julian, Rhonda, and Bich, you are wonderful. I'm sure from the reactions that people love you all. They really find the sessions very useful. It's such a pleasure to have you, doing the drawbridges. And I love the word for the day also, stepping back to go forward. I love that. I love it. Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much, everyone. Wish you a happy day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.